There are no boundaries or stereotypes for creative women, and everything would proceed with mathematical precision if women writers outside the literary and creative world did not face daily challenges and inevitable disappointments. What inspires a woman writer? Who are the modern female creative writers living next to us? How do they overcome professional difficulties? When these kinds of questions have been asked for years and the answers are hanging in the air, the only solution is to address these questions and create a platform for discussion. It was with this intention and with the mission of promoting women writers that New Mag Publishing House and the ARI Literature Foundation initiated the Zabel International Women's Writers Forum. Goals and tasks are multidimensional, but can be consolidated into three main directions.
The first is to make Armenian women writers more visible. Second, it is important to introduce foreign women writers to the Armenian reader. And the third and central goal is to create a dialogue between Armenian women writers and their foreign counterparts.
From the first big failure to the first victory, from a small achievement to a big disappointment and big achievements, Zabel is a platform for every woman inspired and led by literature. For already more than a year, some of the most famous in the literary world, Armenian and foreign women writers have been telling their incredible stories to their junior colleagues, proving that the word impossible simply does not exist in their dictionary.
It's a well-known fact that the texts of numerous writers remain on paper, or even after being published, are still mostly unavailable for the general public. Our platform will grant the opportunity to writers to largely disseminate their works. Aside from this, Armenian writers will also be able to present themselves on international platforms.
What is the writer's obligation? Why is a woman writer isolated? What should be looked for in the middle of literature and politics? What are the nuances and accents of the post-war topic in literary works? Participants of Zabel Forum have already responded to these questions, and this is just the starting point. Speeches, trainings, interviews, panels, and discussions in order to understand and to explain the role of women in the society. The Zabel Forum united the writers and the readers under one umbrella on one platform. It was also granted the opportunity to find solutions and ways to achieve them through an open and sincere dialogue. The most important mission of Zabel Forum has become a reality today in the framework of the project, The Power of the Cultural Diplomacy, Literature Without Borders, funded by the Eurasia Foundation and with the financial assistance of the European Union. Just like our life, so the text and literary work have their own rhythm. This is Defne Suman, the rhythm of life of this woman who was born in Istanbul and who left traces of herself in different corners of the world, has been taken from her opportunities as a teacher, sociologist, actress, and yoga teacher. As a result, Defne Suman had become a writer who inspires and gives professional advice to young dreamers.
In my opinion, writing is the most important part to being a writer. I say this because many people want to write, as they have a wonderful story in their mind. But actually, we don't write because we have good stories to tell. We write because we can make sentences. And while sentence writing is partly an ability, for the most part, it's actually hard work and an art that requires repetition. My notepad is always within reach. Here it is, as you can see. I have always had a notepad with me since I was a child, and of course, a pen box with pens in it. And short writing every day, as all writers say, is something that develops creativity. I try to do so, especially when I'm constantly working from home. Moreover, this is not a temporary stay-at-home period. I, as a writer, always work from home.
The next important step is to realize that in order to reach the ultimate goal and to avoid deadlocks, a writer must ask themselves the right questions.
When starting a new project, I don't start with stories again. In fact, I don't recommend doing so. The stories will come up eventually while writing, but if you start with the "I have a terrific story to tell" concept, you'll find yourself trapped one day. At least this is my opinion. I always start with questioning myself about why I want to tell that story. I start with this concept. One should think about this. If we don't, then what we want to say may remain on the surface, not going deeper into essence. An issue that touches us, an issue that we want to think about. Without it, even if we start writing, we won't be able to go deeper.
Defne Suman has favorite topics in her literary works. Her works touch upon collective memories, stories about personal and social traumas, and discussions about the hidden identity. Defne knows that there is no such thing as a reoccurring story.
Here, I believe that anyone has a story, and if they look inside themselves before telling a story, they will understand why they want to tell that story. To be able to find this reason, I should think, what loss, what pain, what feeling inside me do I want to use this story for? It is important to think about this. I think it is crucial for people to look inside themselves. Why do I say all that? If you fail to do this, what will happen? If you fail to do that, you will have to rewrite the already written story. We can talk about this as well. Weren't all the books written that could have been written? Haven't all the stories been told and continue to be for thousands of years? They were told, true. All the stories to be told were told, but not in my version. The issue that worries me has not been written yet from my point of view. And this is where I lead you. Why do I write? Why do we write when I ask this question? Or you, as future writers, when will you ask yourself about this? Because I want to focus my mind, because I want to be successful. And, just as I said, I have a story, and I should find the reason for telling it.
The creative process of a literary work does not at all start and end with the process of writing. Defne Suman is convinced that the most crucial moment of the literary journey and the most important question that a writer is concerned with is the profundity of the work.
And immersing myself into the issue, I think, is something we need the most today. I'm not saying this as a writer, I'm not talking about the text. Nowadays, people suffer the most from shallowness, from the impossibility to immerse. Fast-paced lifestyle, rapid emotions, rapid agenda, very rapid transformation. And among all that, what happens to us? To the world? What happens to the relations? If we cannot think about it, we will get into a crisis. I think that we live in a crisis of shallowness, and in order not to pass it to the paper, not to repeat it in the text, I believe that it is worth thinking thoroughly before sitting down and writing the text. I want to write a story, but why?
In the exclusive interview for the Zabel Forum, Defne Suman frankly admitted that her literary path was not so smooth. Each new day is a new reason to fight, and there is no time to be disappointed or to give up on the path.
In 2015, when I was crying with the book in my hand, like, how come they don't want this book? Because I trust, the most important thing is you trust your literature. If you really know you did your best, if you have a few good readers, they read and they say, yes, this is a good piece of literature, then the rest is just, you have to fight more. Yeah. That's all. Like, this is women's world, unfortunately. More and more we're getting stronger, so this is really good. But still, there has to be more fight, and we are fighters. You know, we fight better than men, because it's from the very early onwards, that's what you learn, to fight.
There is another story, where though the circumstances are different, the love for literature and the persistent will to write are common. Asle Perker, a participant of the Zabel International Women Writers Forum, knows firsthand that even the most difficult path can be overcome if there is a dream and determination. Asle Perker made up her mind to become a writer when she was just 14. The only reason behind it was her love towards reading and because the books were her only friends. Soon she realized that she also had to earn money, and that is why she decided to become a journalist first. In the course of her masterclass, Asle speaks about the path of becoming a writer and tells the stories behind the publication of all of her books. She also gives practical advice to young writers. According to Asle Perker, there should be no taboo topics for a writer. The writer should be able to feel and afterward turn any kind of emotion and situation into words, ideas, and later into books.
I actually want to tell this to everyone because, yes, it took planning. Yes, it took being persistent. Till that day, since that day, I have planned all my life according to that. And let me tell you, I'm 47 right now. So it was 14, I was 14, and I'm 47 right now. And I couldn't be happier. I love it. And it wasn't easy. Just because I decided to do that, it wasn't easy. Because instead of Italy, let me tell you, I went to United States. I moved to New York, but only with $1,000. This was in 2001, and $1,000 was nothing. I had a suitcase and $1,000, moved there, and I worked in every kind of job. I was like Forrest Gump. Whatever they gave me, I did. I cleaned silverware, polished silverware. I worked at a coffee shop, took care of children, cleaned toilets of some people, seriously. And I did a lot of things, but at the same time, I kept writing.
The creative process can be unpredictable, but the writer must be disciplined and respect their reader's time.
Research before writing anything. It is very important to research the topic before writing. It is very important to collect data related to the topic. After collecting it, be able to turn it into a text, turn it into a sincere text, staying within the rules and at the same time writing in a sincere way so that the reader can read with pleasure. I started to acquire this skill as well. This allowed me to learn a lot. At the same time, delivering the text on time. If you say, I will just sit and write like this whenever, whatever is convenient for me, you will be kicked out. The world is not like that. You must deliver the text on time, even at the specified minute. This also helped me to master the discipline in writing.
A writer should read a lot. This is an unwritten golden rule, and in this regard, Aslı Perker has some tips for young writers. First, realize that reading is half the battle. Then, the literary work should be read professionally, through the eyes of a specialist, and of course, note-taking and research are very important.
Read. In my opinion, reading, at a certain point, becomes a professional habit. Try to read thoroughly, read with understanding. Try to analyze why the author wrote this or that sentence. Why did he use this or that word? It is natural that a person starts reading a book, fully immersed in it, but at some point, you can understand it very quickly. No writer uses any word just like that. Believe me, as a professional writer, I don't believe that any author recognized among other writers would use any word in a sentence just out of nothing. We, the writers, make a stop at almost every word, working thoroughly on each before sending it for publishing. And even then, at the last moment. At least I'm doing that very often, and some writers do as well. I call the editor and say, please hold on, take this or that word out of the last line of page 192 and change it with another one. That's why the text you read can be so easy and smooth. You may not even notice, but the efforts to make it so are tremendous. This is what we expect from readers. For example, Nathaniel Hawthorne once said, easy reading is damn hard writing. Always keep it in mind.
There are rules for writing, but there are no stereotypes. Aslı Perker believes that Zabel Forum's followers and future writers can write without prior structure in mind. The most important thing is to enjoy the process.
You may have the whole structure in mind when you start writing the novel. Like, you know what should take place, when the rise or culmination of the story will be, and where and when it will end. You may know it or go ahead without knowing it. Knowing, seeing the structure may ease your work, and to write the rest will be a piece of cake. If you don't see the structure, the plot, it may make things more complicated. You may go astray in many different directions. It will take you longer to work on the novel. The editor will have to work on it more. And of course, the unexpected surprises will keep you awake. But even if you know the future structure, the surprises may be inevitable, since you can see the future picture, but the characters may start to live their lives and control the situation at some point.
There are many readers in the world who know the writer Aslı Perker, but not everyone has the opportunity to communicate with the lecturer Aslı Perker. This opportunity has been granted to Armenian and Turkish writers. Write in Armenia is one of the most successful projects implemented by the ARI Literature Foundation. The Write in Armenia Creative Writing International Camp united Armenian and Turkish writers around one goal: to get closer to the literary world and raise their professional level. The Power of the Cultural Diplomacy, Literature Without Borders, is the title of the international camp held in the framework of the ARI Literature Foundation's project funded by the Eurasia Partnership Foundation with the financial assistance of the European Union.
At some point, I get really upset.
Lectures, readings, group discussions. The agenda was full, and the educational components due to the participation of numerous tutors and invited lecturers was rich. The alumni of the previous issues of Write in Armenia project were already recording success stories, with debut works, awards, and new perspectives.
We had around 3 sessions. Before, first 2 were like smaller, only 2 countries involved, and the last session was in 2018 with 5 countries involved. Usually we do our camp in Armenia. Like last time in 2018, we selected a very nice place in one of the regions of Armenia, and we had 5 countries involved: Armenia, Turkey, Georgia, Ukraine, and Russia. So it was something like a peace camp with involvement of countries in conflict. But this was like this was of second importance to us, because the main aim of our camp is the creative writing and communication between writers from different countries.
The lecturers during the camp for the Armenian-Turkish young writers were Aslı Perker and Armen Ohanian. A huge amount of new knowledge, skills, and acquaintances to be passed during the Write in Armenia project were equally divided into 12 sessions. Each session brought the participants one step closer to the goal they wanted to achieve. The first and most important lesson from Aslı Perker is that any idea and concept cannot be trivial.
At some point, you're gonna think this is too easy. Like, this must have been done. Somebody must have written about this. But nothing you actually think is simple. But it's the way you write about it. And sometimes, really, even if it's simple, you're the first person to notice that. So keep that in mind always. Don't think anything is just too simple. Any idea. I don't think any idea is simple anyway.
When you realize there are no trivial stories, it is time to create characters who will be your voice and images that will convey the message of the literary work that will reach the reader. Throughout the program, Armen Ohanian kept reminding the participants about this golden rule.
Usually, 99% of this information is not going to be used in your actual writing. But why you are doing this, simply because this person should become a real one for you, first of all. Then she will be a real one for your reader also.
But how to create these characters? How to be careful and scrupulously build their personalities and value systems? Armen Ohanian's next message is clear and pivotal. Prototypes are important, but characters without spice fail.
Why are we using these archetypes? Why can they be useful for us, for writers? The archetypes are like ready-mades. This is like a frozen food that we are buying from supermarket, putting in microwave and getting, our character, because it's already done, We know the weakness, etc., etc. But it's not tasty. It's not interesting. That's why, archetypes can be useful, but we should individualize.
While facing challenges and overcoming them, the writer's ability to think and write outside the box becomes very important. For example, what if the writer attributes certain qualities not to a person, but to a city?
Even in this case, you should give to that city some, human creatures. So to make it metaphorically, let's say, not a metaphorical evil something, but to make somehow the city behave as a human creature or a demon or something like that, But again, this opponent, even if it's a city, it should behave as a human. So it should have some kind of, character and behavior and system of values, etc., which is possible to do. Some great authors do that. I mean, they describe cities as characters. For example, Dublin is a character in James Joyce's writing.
The next golden rule is to be informed. The writer must be able to combine emotions and argumentation.
If you're writing a poem about, let's say, or a short story about the sea, then you should really do some research about the sea. Because for one, it will inspire you. And two, then the piece will be stronger. It will be stronger, and then nobody can ask you questions about it. That's also very important.
The participants of the course got acquainted with all of these rules through practical work based on their own texts. Through these practical exercises during the training, they were developing and improving creative thinking, and as homework, they were tasked to refine their literary works and apply that acquired knowledge. In short, this was an effective combination of practical and theoretical sessions. Through these lessons, the young writers learned that once you have done the necessary research, have a clear topic, and have built characters, it is time to think about the conflict.
To have a story, you have to have a clash. I'm sure you have heard about this, right? You must have. There has to be a clash. Clash between two people. Clash between mom and daughter. Clash between father and son. Most of the books are on that, actually. Clash between two countries, which becomes a book. So it's all about a clash.
Perhaps the most important part of the work is what message is conveyed And through which prism of values will they discuss these imagined situations?
Sometimes we call it aselik in Armenian, or sometimes we call it moral of the story, or the central statement of the story, etc. But I would recommend you to use this moral argument, because it's in reality, it's argument. It's your very personal vision of the world, and for your vision how properly to behave in this world, because your characters are going to do, bad things and good things, bad actions and good actions, and you are looking at these actions from a certain system of value, or for a certain morality, let's say, ethics, and then you are the one who are showing the reader, is this a moral action or immoral action? Okay, so your vision, your moral vision of how we should properly behave in the world is somehow there.
Throughout the course, the participants kept repeating that the Write in Armenia project was a unique opportunity that helped them realize their potential, overcome anxieties, and learn through the process, starting from learning how to write a text to exchanging opinions.
I have never had the courage to write what was coming out of my mind. I was only reading what others wrote. So thanks to this program, I had learned how to write and how to be brave. Our tutors, Aslı and Arman, helped us a lot about it. Aslı always told us how to be brave, how not to be scared of writing anything that was ours. And Arman taught us how to write what was coming out of our minds. So I am very happy that I have joined to this program and met these perfect tutors and other students.
Even being separated by a screen, the participants felt and transferred the warmth of all the support they had throughout the creative process.
It was a bias for me, and it was always a barrier for me to share my work with anyone. But I am very happy to receive feedback from both participants and instructors in this program, because they are giving very helpful feedback, and they are really motivating me to going a step further, and I feel like I was in the right place.
Words of thanks are not just for professional achievements. The participants were happy to have the opportunity to get to know each other, to listen, to find common ground, and to discuss differences.
Always trying to find some kind of project or initiatives that would help me to master my creative writing skills, to hear opinions. And when I saw this project, and also I noticed that we will have Turkish participants, I thought that it would be a perfect fit for me, because I really wanted to connect with them, to see different opinions also from cultural background. And when from the first day, from our first meeting, when I finished our class, I was so inspired and also empowered, because people were very kindly, all participants were very kind and supportive and very open-minded to share their feedback, and I felt that I am in this perfect atmosphere to create, to write my stories and try to present it.
This was a unique opportunity for young Armenian and Turkish writers to rediscover each other and to get to know the country and the people beyond the politics.
Specificity or the significance of this program, the Write in Armenia program, is I never engaged with other writers and people who are trying to be writers, people are engaged in writing that much. So I wanted to be in an environment that I can talk with people about their works and about how we can write stuff, because I don't have a circle like that, and that was one of the main reasons that I wanted to join. And secondly, I think today our lives and our thoughts are pretty much shaped by current politics so much that most of the time we disregard what we may share with other people around the world. And the relationship between Turkey and Armenia is pretty much like that.
The Write in Armenia project included not only 12 rich and intense sessions, but also a chance to meet seasoned professionals. Armed with new knowledge and skills, the young writers had the opportunity to listen to masterclasses by other professionals as well. Exclusively for this special project, Christina Sargassian answered the questions of young writers and presented her journey. Why did Christina, who was not a writer, decide to write a book from scratch that is actively discussed today by Armenian readers?
I've never thought of becoming a writer. It has nothing to do with me. I mean, in general, I think that's something that just happened because I was very much concerned with the youth in our society. And I have to say youth had a larger meaning of it, not only in Armenia, everywhere. Because we have, I think we have thrown our kids into this ocean of the craziness that is happening, the mix of the tech and changes and all kinds of COVIDs and wars and political manipulations and so on and so forth. And we've never been ever responsible enough to educate our youngsters about our brain and in general what kind of game is playing in our life and how it can mess up our life if we don't know how it's working.
Christina Sargassian knows from her own experience what it means to doubt and what it means to be disappointed. But she assured the young writers that the mission should always be above all fears.
If I do not pass this chunk of knowledge that changed and transformed my life to youngsters, that would be something that I'll be very upset about. And I was like, okay, well, let's understand that this has been my own journey of understanding my own brain. And I don't want to ask permission from anyone for understanding my own brain. I have studied enough and I learned enough.
The young writers had the opportunity to find out the answer to the most frequently asked question: when do people prefer to read a book, and in what cases do they prefer to watch a film? Garin Avetesian discussed the topic with the young writers.
Some of the filmmakers try to follow the letter of the literary, of the work of literature, considering the successful screenplay, successful script, that the one that follows the literary text directly. And others, on the opposite, on the contrary, think that the world and the universe that the writer has already created already exists, and the direct interpretation and reflection of that universe, of that world, makes the film itself a secondary. And in this sense, the film must do its best, must strive to become as original, to become as self-sufficient as the literature source, as the source of literature. And in any case, history shows that these both approaches are equally successful.
And finally, is the film an organic continuation of the book or a separate organism?
I think that it's impossible for the translation to be a better, but our aim should be that in a sense of cinema, for a translation, in this case for adaptation, to be something else, but not just duplicating the word that we already felt created, felt on the pages of the writer. So in one sense it should follow, so translation is a thing that follows the original source, but it has no chance to be better. but has a chance to be something else.
The last meeting in this series was the presentation and discussion about the literary basis of translations. Aron Aji shared the most interesting examples of his rich experience with the participants.
Translation and creative writing are very, very related, especially literary translation, of course. We understand translation in a very, very functional way in society, especially because we use them for international relations, for business, for technical or legal writing, or to interpret, in environments where we have second language speakers or non-speakers of the, standard or national languages. And so there is always a sense of urgency coupled with a sense of accuracy, right? We have to be very faithful to what we translate. Quite, of course, literary translation is just as interested in these matters. But the texts that we translate, of course, are themselves literary, and therefore they include the kinds of characteristics of literary texts, such as ambiguity, metaphoric language, tone.
Methods of working with the existing text, comprehension techniques, and developing new text also became real guidelines for these young writers.
What we do is we train ourselves quite deeply in reading literature and how to understand the way a text is put together to produce certain effects, such as meaning, as well as emotion, emotional reaction, so on and so forth.
The intense program was summarized in a familiar environment with words of gratitude and the most important tips in mind.
I think Ashley's advice is stuck in my head and it helped me so much, which is write first with your heart and then write it once more with your brain, because you're going to edit a lot of stuff. Because before that, I kind of had this, stereotype in me that it should be just brain, maybe, that if you are going to succeed or have a good piece, you need to think it very thoroughly, every piece. But it's just kind of blocking your creativity as a writer. So when Ashley said it, I don't know, it meant a lot for me, because I felt like, okay, I can write it by my heart, however I feel it, and then I can think of some thorough details or changing it or adding some tweaks into the story. Because before that it was so stressful for me. And I think the next thing is a huge confidence, because I was self-doubting till this last point when I was writing, doubting my writing. And throughout the classes, when we were giving each other feedback, it helped me.
The young writers had already started to apply their experience and the knowledge gained in the framework of the project. At the end of the project was exactly the time to consolidate what they had learned to create literary works on a new solid basis.
What I found very helpful is that when we were doing little practices with Aslan, I think she really helped me to follow a story or create some character and follow him or her through the story. Now, after all these 12 sessions, we did a lot of them. In my final piece, I kind of used it I used some some instance, some 1 second thing happened in my life, and then I imagined. And it really, this is maybe what creative writing is about, boosting your imagination at the same time. I used it and I kind of turned it into a concept in my mind. And then I incorporated it into the writing. I hope it is understood, you read it. And I also always remember when Armen was, he was talking about a lot of things. And he was always saying, I know this is a lot and I know it's really hard to, keep all this in mind. But I always remember that he says you should know about your characters, you should imagine them, you should know everything about them. And sometimes you do, but sometimes you don't. Then I started to consciously think about my characters, and I think it helped a lot.
In conclusion, Aslı Berker assured her young colleagues that creative work requires discipline and that education is key to staying on the right track.
First of all, I knew from school that there were rules. But what do you mean rules? Like when you're writing something, of course, there aren't any rules. You write from the heart. But also there is a frame. There has to be a frame so that you can stay in and then collect everything you think and then just put it into writing. So classes actually taught me that. It gave me an idea of how to put things together, and semiotics helped me a lot for teaching me. I'm using a word, and that word, I think we worked on this in the class. No word is used in vain. I use every word knowing I'm using it and for what.
The program ended with anticipation of future meetings accompanied with the best creative wishes. The experience of the previous years shows that meetings will definitely take place and that success stories of young writers will once again prove the success of the Write in Armenia project.